Brenda J. Lilly here with the Bridge Artistic Network. I wanted to put out a small disclaimer before we launch into today's video. I am not a licensed therapist. I am just a fellow creative artist who hopes to encourage, engage, and hopefully empower other creative artists to go out and live their art dream. Okay, here we go into today's video. I hope you enjoy it. Well, good Monday morning, everybody. Brenda J. Lilly here with the Bridge Artistic Network, and it is time for a Monday morning kickstart. All right, I hope you like this video. If you do, give us a thumbs up, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, share this video with everyone you know and love so that we can all keep becoming who we were created to be. All right, I will see you on the flip side. Well, good Monday morning, everybody. Brenda J. Lilly here with the Bridge Artistic Network. And it is time for our Monday morning kickstart. I have my big old cup of coffee. I hope you do too, because I'm ready to rock and roll. And I want to talk about recognizing, understanding, and placing a high value on knowing your limits. This world seems to want to push us into things. And sometimes we need a little push, right? Sometimes we've gotten too comfortable in our comfort zone. And so we need a little push outside of the box that we've placed ourselves in. Even artists, sometimes we get really comfy in our medium. We get really comfy with what we know and who we know and how we do business, that we stop venturing forth and we almost stop our learning process. And life is a continual learning process. I don't think we should stop learning, stop growing, stop trying to set new goals, new aspirations, discover new things until the day we don't draw breath anymore. Or else, why are we even here? But we do have to know that these mortal coils are not limit free. We do have limitations, and we have to understand what those are. And they're different in different seasons of our life. And that's the rub, right? Because what I used to be able to do when I was a teenager, I certainly can't do now in my 50s. What I could do in my 20s, by the time I was in my 30s and 40s, I could no longer do. When I was in my 30s, I looked at people in their 50s and I was like, why are they acting so exhausted all the time? Why are they not able to keep up? Like, what is their damage? And now here I sit at 50 and I realize what the damage is, for those of us of the female persuasion. The damage is perimenopause and menopause, which shifts the world for you. And if you're not there yet and you're in your younger years, your 30s, your 40s, feel blessed for the strength you have, for the seemingly never-ending energy you have, and use it to the best of your ability, because there's going to come a time where that resource is no longer a part of your toolkit. And so I think it's important to look at our lives as seasons, right? And to understand that each season has its good, its bad, its ugly. Each season has its growth. Each season has its harvest. Each season has its something we have to let go of, its limitation. And when we look at our lives through that lens of a season, So, whatever decade you're in now, like, what is that season for you? And what does that mean? It certainly doesn't mean that you stop working or you stop achieving or you stop growing or you stop doing things you love. I think it's just about the way we approach those things. Like, I don't mind now. If somebody wants to lift that heavy thing, I'm good. I have nothing to prove, not one little thing. I don't need to prove what a powerful woman I am by lifting something heavy. Do I like to be able to lift heavy things when I need to lift heavy things? Yes. Do I feel like I need to prove that I can still lift heavy things? No, I don't. And when I'm tired, I know my limits. I used to always push myself beyond my limits to my detriment. I would get sick, I would get wounded, I would get injured, and I've done some serious damage to this poor little body of mine because of that, because I refused to believe that I had any limitations. Thinking that the idea of being limited was bad, because we think of limitations as that point where we can't go beyond, right? Where the mirror comes up to us and we have to look ourselves full in the face and say, I don't know if this is possible. It doesn't mean that if something looks hard or difficult that we can't possibly do it or that it's wrong to even attempt it. But our body, our mind, and our spirit, when something is going to push us beyond what we're capable of, beyond what those things can hold, our body, our mind, our spirit, beyond what they can actually hold, our body gives us warning signs. It says, this isn't good. We get overly exhausted. We are sore or weak in a spot in our bodies. Or we get injured. And it's not a big injury at first. It's a small little warning injury. You sprain a finger. And it says, careful there. Careful what else you pick up this weekend. Careful, because I'm tired. My whole body, my spirit, my mind. Careful. And if we don't pick up those cues from our own body, our own mind, our own spirit, we can do serious damage to ourselves. And that's why I think it's so important as artists, as humans, as people on this planet, that we start to listen. Listen to this body. This week, I have been down with one of the worst colds and coughs that I've had in a very long time. Like, my cough is prolific. Trying to breathe through this video right now is not easy for me. And not cough my way through it. So I have a beverage and I have the pause button. And I use them both so that I can keep going. I'm listening to myself. Like, all week long, I was doing the strangest thing. I would wake up, I would come downstairs. That's not strange, that's fairly normal. And I asked my brother to walk my dog. Rarely, rarely do I ask that of anyone. I love walking my dog, but I didn't have it in me. And I knew that if I tried, it would push me beyond and it would slow my recovery down. Okay. So that was the first weird thing. The next weird thing was about 3 hours after I woke up, I wanted to go back to bed. So I did. And I mean, died, slept like a log for hours. I got up, I was up for a few hours, back to bed. Part of the problem was every time I laid down, I would cough like crazy. So I wasn't getting the good amount of sleep that I needed. I would get little chunks. So that slowed my recovery down, which meant I needed more help, which meant I had to start thinking about what I had planned for the week. And I had to start canceling those plans. And dude, that's a bummer for me. I don't like doing that. When I have said yes to a project, when I have said yes to going and visiting and meeting up with a friend, these things are precious to me. But I had to listen to myself. Now, back when I was in my 20s, I never listened to myself. In my 30s, rarely listened to myself. In my 40s, I started paying a little bit closer attention. But now that I'm here in my 50s, I'm telling you, I can't not listen to what my body, my mind, and my spirit are telling me. Because if I do, it is to my own detriment and then to the detriment of everything I'm trying to accomplish. And that is of utmost importance for us to understand. When you set goals for yourself, when we have a vision of something we're trying to create, we need to give it the space, the time, and the room, and then add some time to that for things to go wrong, for things to go sideways. Give yourself some buffer because you're going to need it. You know, I took a class back in the day. This was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But it was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was a great class. Great class. At the time, I was real type A driven personality. Like, get out of my way, I'm going to get this done kind of person. And I've talked about that before, right? Where my nickname was Bulldozer or Bulldog, and I just kept going. I was like a dog with a bone. I just kept going. And if you got in my way, I would run you over. I was a bulldozer. It wasn't always pleasant in those moments. But the most important thing was to get the job done. And so I thought of nothing else. I ate, slept, and drank the job, the project, whatever it is I was trying to accomplish. And in some ways, that's not a problem. In some ways, that's a good work ethic. Until you realize you're killing yourself doing it or plowing people over because of it, not taking people's lives and families and living situations into account, being merciless about things, lacking empathy and grace. That's not cool. I'd like to think I'm a little more gracious, a little bit more merciful, and I take people into account a whole lot more than I ever did before. But do I do that for myself when I've charged myself with something that I'm supposed to accomplish, something that I'm supposed to be there for? Do I give myself the same grace and mercy and understanding that I give to other people? And a lot of times the answer to that is nope, I don't. I ignore my limitations. I ignore what my body is telling me. I ignore what my mind is speaking. I ignore my spirit. And I keep going. Less and less and less and less and less now in my 50s than it used to be. My mom called it burning the candle at both ends. And she was like, you can't keep burning the candle at both ends, Brenda. You're going to get sick. You're going to get hurt. She would constantly beat that drum, and it drove me a little bit crazy. And you know why? Because she was right. I was trying to do too much. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was on fire over here and on fire over here. And at some point, those two flames were going to meet in the middle and a mighty explosion would happen. It was funny that my family had, it was almost a joke. It's like, oh, Brenda, when I was in the middle of a show, they would never hear from me. And so they were like, oh, haven't heard from Brenda in a while. She must be doing a show. That was one thing they would say. And then I would get sick and they were like, oh, your show just finished? Because I would work. And I would not allow my body to get sick. And then finally, when my body recognized it had a moment and it could make me rest, it would put me down. Like I would get so sick. And somewhere in my 40s, I decided it's kind of not how I want to live my life anymore. I don't think that that's what we're meant to do as human beings. I don't think we're meant to work, and then get sick and die. I just don't think that that's necessary. So how do we fix that? When we are driven people, passionate people, people who have set goals and want to achieve them, how do we make sure a part of that process is self-care? Checking in with ourselves, acknowledging our limitations and saying, that's not possible this week, but it is possible next week. Let's get that on the calendar. So I didn't finish my thought about the 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. We talked about schedule. There was one class and it was all about scheduling. Now, I was a master scheduler in my previous life as a stage manager, so I didn't really think I would learn much from this class. I was very full of myself. But one of the things I learned was you can't schedule yourself soup to nuts every day. Like you can't have something every moment of the day. You have to give yourself not only breaks, but you have to leave a swath of the day, like a third of the day, just open. That has to be a part of your schedule for when things go sideways, because that extra 30% of your day, that gives you slush time for when things go sideways. If you schedule yourself, like if your work day is from 9 to 5 and you have every hour of that day scheduled back-to-back meetings, a meeting over lunch, then back-to-back meetings, until you drive home and you have a meeting in the car on the phone. I know people who still try to do that, and they live in the land. I think they think it's okay, but they're just living on fumes. They can't experience the life they're living because they're running past it, constantly missing out on glorious moments. I think part of the good thing of recognizing your limitations is it makes you slow down and take stock. It makes you recognize all that you've done up to the point where you stopped yourself, and take a breath and say, is it necessary for me to finish this, and this today? Or can I rearrange the schedule, staying on track, staying on target, but allowing there to be a little more space, a little more breath, a little more joy along the way? You know, I used to be project to project to project to project. And at some point, I lost the joy of what it is I was in the midst of doing. Everybody would be like, oh, are you super excited because it's almost opening day? I was like, yeah, I'll be excited when the day's over. And I can sit down and relax. Like, I was so spent that I couldn't even find my way to excitement about this big event that I was a part of making happen. That's not the way we're meant to live. Recognizing that we need to set boundaries, set some limitations, set some limits, schedule ourselves more graciously and with more breath. I think these things are important. So that's what I learned this week, as I had a cough due to cold and I had to cancel a whole bunch of things. Limitations aren't bad. It's just information about how we can live our lives better as artists, as human beings, and as creatives. So that's what I have for us today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it with everyone you know. All right. Have a blessed week. Check in with yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit. Slow down. Take some breaths. Be gracious to yourself as you're gracious to everyone else. And I'll see you next Monday. Hey, thank you so much for watching our video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, subscribe. What are you waiting for? All right. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye.